Hello YouTube, Mike Kohanam here. Now that the Fusion Festival has started, I'm going to show off the way that my deck has developed as I played through it. I currently have about 10,000 medals. We're still in the first day of event, so I'm about halfway through with getting all of the rewards you can accumulate by acquiring medals. So I'll talk about which cards in the deck worked, which cards did not, what changes I made, and why I changed them for the Fusion Festival that is going on right now. I also saved some of the replays that show off some of the strategies and combos that the deck can perform, so you can get a better understanding of how to use the deck and the types of plays that the deck is capable of. As always, if you enjoy my video, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. It gives me a lot of encouragement to continue making videos like it, and I greatly appreciate it. If you want to see my original video for the Gladiator Beast deck that I started using going into the Fusion Festival, I'll include the link to that video down in the description. In that video, I talk about why I was planning to include certain cards in that deck going into the Fusion Festival, and some of the basic strategies that I anticipated to be powerful in that deck for the Fusion Festival. If you want to see what a Gladiator Beast deck in the Master Duel Advanced format is capable of, I'll include a link down in the description as well to my video covering my Advanced format Master Duel Gladiator Beast deck. The deck is capable of some incredible combos, and if you're not familiar with Gladiator Beasts, you might be quite impressed by what the deck can actually do. For anyone wanting to play my current list of Gladiator Beasts in the ongoing Fusion Festival, I'll include a deck list down in the description as well. Since my last video, and since the Fusion Festival has started, I made a couple of changes to this deck. The gist of it is that I slimmed down a bit on the Gladiator Beast lineup, and shored up some of the tech cards for the cards I began encountering in the Fusion Festival that appeared to be particularly powerful. Originally, I was using 2 copies of Darius and 2 copies of Equeste. I found that I really never needed that, so I cut 1 copy of each. I also removed Gladiator Beast Essedarii and Gladiator Beast Liquari entirely. I liked having Essedarii as an option to help draw cards, but in practice I found that I pretty much never tagged it in and was always wanting to tag in something different. So it didn't make the cut, and I eliminated it from the deck in order to make room for more tech cards. Originally, I liked Liquari because I liked the fact that he can be used to just fusion summon Heraklinos with Liquari and 2 Gladiator Beasts on the field. But in reality, what I was finding is that anytime that I was able to do that play, I was just as easily, if not more easily, able to summon Gladiator Beast Tamer Editor and use its effect to special summon Heraklinos, which is not only a stronger play, but also requires the same number of monsters on the field, if not fewer monsters on the field, since if you have 2 level 5 or higher monsters, you can summon Tamer Editor without even making Essedarii first. So for that reason, Essedarii and Liquari were both cut. I also cut 1 copy of Gladiator Beast United to reduce the dead draws with the deck. I didn't want multiple copies of United if I didn't have the Gladiator Beast to fuse. Make no mistake, Gladiator Beast United is really powerful, but there were tech cards I wanted to include, and I wanted to keep the deck count at 40 cards. Finally, the last card that I cut was 1 copy of Test Tiger, which I thought was justified by the fact that I slimmed down on the Gladiator Beast lineup. So with all of these cards cut, you may be asking what I added. The cards I added are pretty straightforward tech cards. Originally, I wasn't using Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring in my deck because I wasn't sure what decks I would encounter and their relevance, and that not playing Ash Blossom was a mistake. For one thing, Fusion Destiny was highly relevant, and Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring is an incredible card for stopping Fusion Destiny before it can summon Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer, so it's powerful against that. Pot of Desires is also relevant in the format, as is Card of Demise in what I perceive to be a pretty popular deck, True Dracos. So Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, while it doesn't enable any of the Gladiator Beast combos, was definitely worth the deck space. alongside the Maxxs that I was already running. Furthermore, I already used one copy of Harpie's Feather Duster, but also added in a copy of Lightning Storm. First off, Fields of Monsters rarely had protection against Lightning Storm. Very few cards have protection from destruction that I encountered, and even fewer cards can negate spell cards because not everyone's playing Gladiator Beast Heraklinos like me. I also added, as the final 2 tech cards for the 6 cards I removed, 2 copies of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave, another great card. Strong counter to Maxx and Ash Blossom to get the plays going, but also relevant because it can banish Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer from the Duel, permanently dealing with that, which is a powerful card in this Fusion Festival format, and dealing with lots of other relevant monster effects that activate in the graveyard. So, you may be disappointed that I took out a bunch of Gladiator Beast themed cards for generic tech cards, but in the end, I think it improved the consistency of the deck and was worthwhile. While playing this deck, I observed that it was really just a deck that spams Gladiator Beast Gyzarus, using it over and over again, often in the same turn, as well as Gladiator Beast Tamer Editor. Even though you can't send Tamer Editor to the graveyard to perform a Link Summon, because Link monsters are not available in this event, you can actually often summon multiple copies of Tamer Editor in a single turn with the combos available to this deck. When I originally built it, I thought that I would sometimes be fusion summoning Domitianus and Gladiator Beast Heraklinos simply by using their fusion materials on the field. In practice, I found that never to happen, and I was pretty much just always going for Tamer Editor or Gyzarus, often going for Andabata as well when I had the Augustus with 2 Gladiator Beasts out, just because Andabata leads into a free Gladiator Beast Gyzarus plus an additional tag out, since Andabata tags out for 2 monsters and Gyzarus tags out for 2 as well. So in practice, you're occasionally using Essedarii as a bridge to get to Tamer Editor, but in the end, you're really just summoning Gyzarus, Andabata, and Tamer Editor over and over again with this deck, and you can make some incredible plays with it. In those replays, I will show off some of the plays that you can make by fusion summoning these 3 monsters quite often. It's kind of weird how this works. Because it's early in the season and I haven't had time to rank up in standard advanced duels, I'm currently at a Platinum 4 rank, so all of my opponents in the Fusion Festival are also at a Platinum 4 rank, which somewhat incentivizes staying at a lower rank, so you can rack up rewards more quickly early in the season, and then reaching Diamond 1, which is the highest rank, later in the season. It wasn't my intention to do that, but it just sort of happened because the event started while I was still only in Platinum rank. Nevertheless, it should not affect my ability to show off the plays that the deck can make and teach you how to make those plays, and I will hit Diamond 1 by the end of the month. I am confident in that. So let's jump into the first duel. Any hand with Fusion Deployment is pretty good because Fusion Deployment is such an incredible card for this deck because it can get really strong fusion materials out, particularly Gladiator Beast Augustus or Vespasius. My opponent is playing Thunder Dragons, which I think were one of the fusion-based strategies that was anticipated to be fairly powerful. My opponent does use Instant Fusion, sorry, I believe that's Ready Fusion. My opponent uses Ready Fusion, not quite Instant Fusion, which I do chain Maxx to, but I do lose out to Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. He summons Kaminari attack with the Ready Fusion, and then is able to send it to the graveyard to summon Thunder Dragon Titan. Titan lets him banish 2 cards from the graveyard to protect it anytime it would be destroyed, so I do have my work cut out for me here. Luckily, I do draw Gladiator Rejection, which lets me summon Andal with a Unexpected Dai, and then Bestiari with Rejection. I can then summon Gyzarus to threaten Titan for the first time, and then use Fusion Deployment to summon Augustus, make Tamer Editor, special summon Gyzarus, and threaten the Titan a second time while taking out the Aloof Lupine. So with 2 threatened destructions on the Titan, he's banished 4 cards. He then discards the Dragon Dark to activate its effect, not only destroying my Tamer Editor, but also getting a second Thunder monster into his graveyard so he can protect Titan once again. Fortunately, this deck's really strong once it gets a battle phase. So I attack with Darius and Gyzarus into his defense position monster, and I'm able to tag out for Augustus and Attorix with the Gyzarus, and then tag out Darius for Equeste to bring back Vespasius. Attorix being a level 7, with its effect, I fuse my remaining monsters to summon Andabata. Andabata, when summoned, lets me summon Gyzarus, which I then once again use to threaten the Titan. I then fusion summon Tamer Editor using the Attorix, which is level 7 or higher, as well as the Gyzarus, and use Tamer Editor's effect to summon Domitianus. So I was able to destroy or threaten destruction on that Titan, I believe 4 times to finally destroy it, and then end my turn with Domitianus on the field. You'll find that Gladiator Rejection is an incredible card to start with, because if you combo it with either Rescue Rabbit, Unexpected Dai, or Fusion Deployment, you pretty much have a good starting hand already. Once again, I drew Gladiator Rejection, this time alongside Fusion Deployment. The only downside here is the single copy of Vespasius is my hand, so I'm not able to actually summon a level 7 or 8 from the deck. So I'm forced to normal summon, so I can make Essedarii to fuse with Augustus and make Tamer Editor. Once it's on the field, I use Tamer Editor's effect to summon Heraklinos. For this particular event, I find that Heraklinos is usually the better summon than Domitianus, since so many decks are relying on spell cards to fusion summon, and if you can shut those down, you basically just win. My opponent ended his turn without getting the Tamer Editor off of the field. The majority of the time, if you're able to summon either Heraklinos or Domitianus with Tamer Editor, and your opponent can't take down the Tamer Editor, you just win, because you can use this effect again on the next turn, and you will have so many negations on the field, as well as way over 8,000 points of damage, and that's what happened in that duel. This is another incredible hand. I always choose to go first, just because you can set up the Tamer Editor play that summons either Domitianus or Heraklinos to try to just seal up the duel early on. But if you do have to go second, this deck does play really well going second as well, because you can use Gyzarus' effect to destroy your opponent's cards. I do activate Rejection and Fusion Deployment to summon Augustus, but he chains Maxx, so rather than press through it, I actually just end my turn with Augustus on the field and let him draw his 1 card with Maxx. To continue into Tamer Editor and use Tamer Editor's effect would have been another 3 summons, which I just didn't think was worth letting him draw 3 cards. My opponent's playing Triamids, a deck that I am quite familiar with thanks to Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. This deck had been the bane of me for a long time because I used to play Thunder Dragons on there, and Triamids had an incredible matchup against Thunder Dragons in Duel Links. My opponent made a couple of questionable plays, in my opinion, where he wasn't really setting up the field spell card that prevents the destruction of his monsters by card effects. I feel like he didn't really play around by Gyzarus as well as he could have. Nevertheless, he does summon the triamid Sphinx, which is quite threatening. He does clear my field here, which honestly is not a bad thing when you have Rejection out with Unexpected Dai in your hand. Unexpected Dai plus Gladiator Rejection is actually a combo I use very often in Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links, so it's nice to see it carry over into the Fusion Festival as a rather powerful play. He uses his Triamid Dancer to swap his field spell. He keeps going for these irrelevant field spells in this game, though, but I'm able to summon Andabata, use its effect to summon Gyzarus. I target his face-down back row as well as the Sphinx. In my mind, I'm forcing out the ability of his Dancer to swap the field spell so that he can try to protect the Sphinx. But my recollection is he doesn't even do that. He does not. So instead, I use Tamer Editor to summon Gyzarus, destroy 2 more cards. And as you can see, I really just keep bringing out Tamer Editor over and over again, and bringing out Gyzarus over and over again, until he really just has nothing left. Without protection from destruction, he's just a sitting duck. During my battle phase, I'm actually able to use Gladiator United there to fusion summon another Tamer Editor and just use it to attack. Let's jump into the next duel. You're allowed to save 10 duels at a time, so I only have 10 replays to show. This hand does not have Gladiator Rejection in it, and my opponent uses Branded Opening, so he is playing a Despia deck. This was another deck that I certainly expected to be one of the most popular and perhaps strongest decks in the Fusion Festival. Goes for Aluba. Aluber uses Aluber to get Despia Theater and performs a fusion summon with the effect of his field spell into Masquerade. Masquerade is, again, since it doesn't have protection from destruction, is not particularly powerful against my deck. The life point loss is a bit annoying. The 600 life points per card I play is a bit of a cost, but it's not so steep that it actually stops me from playing. So I use Fusion Deployment, reveal the Andabata, summon Andal, and then I'm actually able to just attack over the 3000 attacker, Dramaturge, and use Vespasius' effect in my hand to special summon it and increase the attack points of all of my monsters by 500. With that, I'm able to clear his field. On the next turn, since he doesn't really have any retaliation play, I'm able to summon Bestiari, Gyzarus him, and destroy Aluber. But he does special summon Masquerade back. I then fusion summon Tamer Editor and special summon Gyzarus. I made a bit of a misplay here. Not realizing that I wasn't able to deal with his Masquerade, so I do lose the Gyzarus. But as I mentioned before, usually when your opponent ends his turn leaving you a Tamer Editor, you pretty much just win. Because on my next turn, I use Tamer Editor's effect again, clear his field, and once again I have the upper hand. He does use the effects of the Hedgehog and the Aluber. He special summons Aluber, but I have a big field of monsters. I normal summon a quest, switch the Tamer to attack position, and reborn his 3000 attack monster, which gives me more than enough attack points to just finish him off. Jumping into the next duel, I don't have the best hand. And my opponent is once again using Despia, so he summons a Luber, but loses out on its effect to my Ash Blossom. I have a very slow hand that looks like it's going to play kind of like the old Gladiator Beast deck in the TCG, where my best combo is Gladiator Beast plus Test Tiger. So I summon Andal, try to use Test Tiger to send it back, set up a Gyzarus play by getting Augustus perhaps. But he actually just uses Ash Blossom on it, and now my upper hand is the fact that my Andal has 100 more attack points than a Luber. So I just attack, and I do set the War Chariot, but he uses Branded in red. I chain the Maxx in case he special summons the Luber using its effect. Or rather, fusion summons with the Luber using its effect. And he does in fact do that to make Masquerade, which lets me draw one card. Masquerade attacks Andal, and once again, I really don't have much going on, so I'm pretty far behind, it seems. My opponent uses Fright for Patchwork. He gets to fuse Edge Imp Chain with Destiny Hero Dasher to summon Destiny Hero Dangerous, which certainly puts me in a dangerous situation. But I do still have 2,900 life points at the end of the two attacks, and I really need to set up a Gyzarus play, otherwise I lose. But on my next turn, I do draw Unexpected Dai with Bestiari in my hand. So the unfortunate thing here is he chains Maxx, and I'm not actually able to use War Chariot to negate it because I used Unexpected Dai with a clear field without a Gladiator on the field, which is unfortunately the only way to use Unexpected Dai. So I actually have to just destroy his cards with Gyzarus and press through, allowing him to draw as many cards as necessary with Maxx. So I do attack with Gyzarus. And I actually use the War Chariot to temporarily stave off the Masquerade, because if he summons that back to the field, my Gyzarus won't even connect, so that's not really an option. So I do make the attack, and I am able to tag out for Vespasius, which is stronger than a Masquerade that he may summon, and Equeste, which can bring back the Chariot, which is particularly useful. My opponent does use the effect of Dasher to special summon Ash Blossom. I'm not entirely sure why. And then special summons a Luber and uses its effect, but I use War Chariot to stop it. So suddenly I'm actually in a much better position, though he does use the effect of Celestial to draw two cards by banishing it alongside Dasher. Fright for Fusion comes down next, but it looks like he's not able to fusion summon. With the Harpie's Feather Duster in my hand, I am in great shape, being able to destroy the back row along with the theater. He does chain the Cold by the Grave, suspiciously getting rid of the Test Tiger, I guess in case I have another Test Tiger effect that I want to use. Though, knowing the cards I have, he certainly would have been better off getting rid of the Gladiator Beast, the lone Gladiator Beast in my graveyard. But since he didn't, my attacks connect. I use the effect of Equeste to once again bring back the Gladiator Beast War Chariot, continuing the Chariot lock. And from there, he's actually seen enough and concedes. Jumping into the next duel, I do have Gladiator Rejection, Test Tiger, and a Gladiator Beast. Not the best hand, but not the worst. So I normal summon and use the Tiger, but he does use Maxx. Fortunately, I do have Cold by the Grave, so I banish the Maxx and stop its effect, because I do, in fact, have a first turn play that allows me to summon Tamer Editor with a series of special summons. So I use the Tiger to send back Darius, use its effect to special summon Attorix. I use Attorix's effect so that I can change its level by sending a Gladiator to my graveyard for my deck. And I use Rejection to summon Vespasius for my deck so that I can fusion summon Tamer Editor and use its effect to summon Domitianus. I don't go for Heraklinos here because there's really not enough cards in my hand to make Heraklinos worthwhile. But the Domitianus and War Chariot backup allows me to negate 2 monster effects, which apparently my opponent could not get through. Here's another hand with the Gladiator Rejection Unexpected Dai combo. Because my opponent uses Maxx in chain to the Rejection, which is a questionable play. He obviously should have used it in chain to the card that actually special summons, or an effect that actually special summons. I'm actually able to just end my turn and call it a win that he's down 1 card because the Maxx was used without replacing itself. My opponent's hand seems pretty weak. He just summons Alistair, gets Invocation, and attacks. And now I have another shot at making all my special summons. Hopefully without getting hit by Maxx. So I use Unexpected Dai to get Andal and use Rejection's effect. This time he stops it with Ash Blossom. But that's not really a problem because my hand is really not bad and was not relying on that. I special summon Test Tiger and he actually negates it with Infinite Impermanence, which makes my next line pretty easy. I normal summon Andal, attack his Alistair with it, and that lets me use Vespasius's effect in my hand to special summon it and increase the attack of all my monsters by 500. I can then fuse the Andals to make Essedarii, and then fuse Essedarii with Vespasius to make Tamer Editor, and use Tamer Editor's effect to summon Domitianus. My opponent does have Shadow Fusion, which I cannot negate because I didn't make Heraklinos, because I didn't think I had enough cards in my hand to really justify it. But I am able to chain the Maxx to draw a card. Thanks to the protection of Gladiator Rejection, he also can't target my Gladiator Beast monsters. So he uses the Dragon's effect to destroy the Rejection. I let him do it because I have another Rejection in my hand. I'm not sure if that was the right play, because being able to prevent the targeting of my gladiators for the turn was also quite valuable. But Domitianus can also redirect his attacks, which leaves me still in a fairly strong position. He does summon Purgatrio using Invocation and then return Alistair to his hand. He uses Alistair's effect to try to pump Purgatrio up to 3,900 attack points. I am pretty much forced to use Domitianus to negate the effect of Alistair so that it's not able to clear my field. And he actually attacks with Construct first, which I redirect to the special summon Test Tiger so that he can't destroy Domitianus or Tamer Editor, since the Construct destroys any special summon monster it battles. He then does attack with Purgatrio, I assume because he recognizes that he lost and would rather just end it quickly, and I redirect that to Tamer Editor and take out his last 300 life points. I didn't get Gladiator Rejection in this hand, but I do have Fusion Deployment and Rescue Cat, which is also a Tamer Editor combo. My opponent just sets 2 cards, which I can then use Feather Duster to blow away. Again, I think Harpie's Feather Duster is really good in this format, because I think back rows are relatively heavy. So I use Fusion Deployment, revealing Andabata to summon Augustus, then summon the Rabbit to banish it and special summon 2 Andals. That lets me summon Andabata, which then summons Gyzarus, and then I attack with everything, with both of my monsters being able to tag out for 2 Gladiator Beasts each. Since I'm out of level 5 and higher Gladiator Beast in my main deck, I send Essedarii to the graveyard with Attorix's effect to copy its level. And then I fusion summon 2 copies of Tamer Editor with my 4 monsters and use both of their effects to summon Domitianus and Gladiator Beast Heraklinos. With a monster effect pinned down and up to 3 Inspiller trap cards pinned down by the effect of Heraklinos, my opponent concedes pretty much immediately. This is a pretty weak hand from my perspective. I summoned the Rescue Rabbit fairly reluctantly. My original intention was actually to just banish it to get 2 Andals and make Essedarii to maybe set up a play with Gladiator Beast United later. But he actually uses Maxx, which invites me to just stop and let him take the 1-card loss on the Maxx. So I set Cold by the Grave, hoping for it to help later. And my opponent just uses Fusion Destiny to make Destiny Hero Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer, summon Fallen of Albaz, and clear my field. I get lucky that he doesn't try to destroy the Cold by the Grave with the Destiny Hero Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer on his turn. He then waits till my turn, uses its effect to destroy the Rescue Rabbit, which allows me to use Cold by the Grave to banish the Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer and stop its effect. Then the Andal is actually able to just destroy Fallen of Albaz in battle. So what could have been a really awful situation actually ended up not being that bad. And my luck really turns around on the next turn too, when he draws a monster to special summon with Dasher, and I'm able to chain Maxx to Dasher's effect. I draw Augustus, which is normally not the best draw, but with Gladiator Beast United in my hand, it certainly has its uses. I will once again attack with Andal, so I'm playing a very slow, grindy game against my opponent. Again, the Cold by the Grave really rescued me there, but my opponent's actually on the defensive, and I'm sort of a card away from just breaking out. And that card actually is Gladiator Beast Bestiari. That's certainly one of the cards that just breaks through here. So I use it to special summon Gyzarus, destroy the face-down dragon, whose effect tries to destroy Cold by the Grave, which lets me destroy the Celestial, which will have a lasting impact on this duel. I then attack with Gyzarus, tag it out for Augustus and Attorix. Attorix is able to then copy the level of Vespasius by sending it to the graveyard, and Augustus's effect lets me special summon the Augustus in my hand. Still in the battle phase, at the end of the battle phase, because United can only be used in the battle phase, I activate Gladiator Beast United to fuse the Attorix with the Vespasius in the graveyard to make Tamer Editor, and then in main phase 2, I fuse my on-field monsters to make a second Tamer Editor. With their effects, I'm then able to summon 2 copies of Domitianus, so I have 2 monster effect negations. He summons Alistair with only a single card in his hand. I'm obviously not going to hesitate to negate the activation of its effect, and my opponent does concede. Here's the final duel of the 10 saved replays. My opponent is playing Lunalights. This is, I think, actually the only time I played against Lunalights in the Fusion Festival so far. It's a deck I am very familiar with because of its power in Duel Links. I do successfully use Maxx C, which certainly helps out here, and my opponent does summon Lunalight Saber Dancer with 3600 attack, which cannot be targeted, but he does special summon Yellow Marten back from the graveyard, which actually weakens it to 3400, which is actually crucial here because of the fact that it allows Domitianus to actually attack over it without a boost from Vespasius particularly. So I use the Feather Duster just to clear the field so that the rest of my play can continue as planned. I don't want to destroy Yellow Marten because I don't want to increase the Saber Dancer's attack points by an extra 200 points by sending it to the graveyard. So I conduct a string of fusion summons that lead into Tamer Editor, whose effect special summons Domitianus. Domitianus attacks and destroys Saber Dancer, and with it off the field, I'm free to destroy Yellow Marten without worrying about the attack boost that would come to Tamer Editor. As always, once you actually get to battle, the deck can do even more incredible things. It's breaking the field and getting those battles in that can sometimes be challenging, but when you're tagging out cards like Gyzarus for 2 Gladiator Beasts at a time, you can usually create a pretty impressive field. So my opponent summons Lunalight White Rabbit. I try to negate its effect with the effect of Domitianus, and my opponent chains the effect of the trap card in the graveyard by banishing it. Lunalight Serenade Dance, and I chain Maxx C so that I get to draw a card when he special summons this Lunalight Kaleido Chick from his deck. He uses its effect and plays a Pendulum Scale, but Heraklinos can negate the Pendulum Scale. Since this is the last card in his hand, I obviously don't hesitate to negate it. He brings back Yellow Marten, but it's really just not relevant. Once again, Tamer Editor survived, so I'm able to use its effect to summon Gyzarus, destroy the Yellow Marten, and then in my battle phase, just to get a fifth fusion monster on the field for the thumbnail of this video, I do use Gladiator Beast United to summon Gladiator Beast Gyzarus while in the battle phase and attack with everything. So that's the Gladiator Beast deck that I've been using in the Fusion Festival. And at this point, as I mentioned before, it is the first day of the Fusion Festival, and I have a little over 10,000 medals, which means I'm halfway through getting all of the rewards you can acquire by earning medals. So this deck wins consistently and quickly, and I do recommend it as a strong pick for the Fusion Festival. If you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate if you like this video and subscribe to my channel, and it'll encourage me to make more videos like it. Thank you.